You know, I've been thinking about this idea for a while now. Even in school, while I'm in class, I've been thinking about it, right? I've asked a couple of my friends, and it's a simple line that Tony Stark said, yes, Iron Man, in Age of Ultron. He said, peace in our time, right? And some of you may notice that whenever I ended my videos, um, I always say, I hope you can find peace. And that's because I hope you do. I feel like um, whether you believe in Jesus or not, uh, when you get to the end of your life, it pretty much boils down to finding peace, making amends with people, tying up loose ends, you could say. But, I see it in my grandpa, or both my grandpas, especially on the one side, is that me and my cousins were ambitious. We want to build cars. We want to do stuff. And he sees that, and he talks like, you know, hey, just take it chill. Enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, right? He's like that type of guy, and enjoy the peace you get from that journey, right? And as I've been growing up, developing, I've realized that he's not wrong. And as I probably get older, I realize that he was right. And I know he's right. And that is to, enjoy the journey, enjoy the peace along the way, enjoy the good and the bad. When I say peace, I mean, finding your own thing, your own good and the bad, or bad and the good, because bad can be good, you know. Um, just kind of finding that middle ground, and uh, also at the same time, having peace in your life means having no regrets. That's a big one, right? Having no regrets. I can go on that one for a while, but having no regrets, obviously, everyone has regrets, obviously, but I feel like as you get older, age, or have more life thrown at you, you start to realize that those regrets are in the past, and you can only think about the past, or you can only reminisce about the past for so long. For example, there's my parents or my grandparents or anything, right? I ask about high school. They're like, oh, that's the good old days, right? Having fun, not a care in the world, right? Going to parties, football games, right? The usual, right? High school stuff. Because when in your lifetime are you going to be able to be with that many people for that many years and that close of a space, right? When are you going to wake up early, have to go through school, have to struggle with people around you for 4 years, right? It's very hard to find. In college you have that, but it's a different type of struggle. I'm talking about high school, waking up early, going to bed late or early if you're one of those people that are on time, as I get older, I think I will realize that there's a peace in that, there's a peace in all the drama, all the breakups, all the hardships, I'm going through a hardship right now, and I'm starting to find myself again, even though it's been a couple of days, um, or a day in fact. But, finding peace is what I've kind of come to. Now, I'm not, I don't know what religion it is. It's inner peace. I don't know my religions that well. Sorry to my audience that does. But I know there's a religion out there that has to do with inner peace and that. Um, I guess, yes, I know I'm talking about that, but my type of peace is, giving back, helping people out, being social, being friendly, if whoever's listening, if you know the story about Jesus or Christ or God. You know, he was a very loving man. He showed mercy. He showed lots of mercy. You know, he healed people. He showed peace, right? And, you know, having that much immense power, it should be feared, right? But at the same time, he's at peace, you know. He controls his power through peace in a sense, you know. So that's where I kind of draw my definition of peace from. And I'm starting to realize that a lot of people around me, they're not going to find their peace for a while. They're not going to find that happy place that makes them happy or truly fulfills them, you know. My friends around me, they're partying and worrying about money. I'm worrying about money as well, but I'm starting to realize that there's more to that. But, you know, partying, money, alcohol, drugs, right? That's what my friends are doing, right? Or not my friends, but people at my school. And, you know, there's a couple kids that realize that that's bad and they're getting out of it, finally, right? But I've kind of come to the realization that, man, one day when we all grow old, which is going to be in, you know, probably 40, 50 years from now. Wow, 40 years from now, it's going to be 2065. Can you imagine that? Crazy. Anyways, when we all grow old, like our grandparents or our parents, we're going to realize that they were right. But finding peace, enjoying the journey, enjoying the hardships, and not to worry about what the other people think, they're going to be right, you know. And it's crazy how that works, right? It's crazy how sometimes some people take the advice, but most people don't. And it's a pattern, you know, because I guarantee you, their parents or their grandparents said the same thing to them. And it's crazy as humans that we don't take that advice because we think that we're different. And we are different. You know, our thoughts, our voice, our minds are different. But at the end of the day, I feel like most humans, some people are different. I'm not saying this is for everyone. You have to follow this. But most people want to find peace in that journey in their life, you know. They want to find peace. They want to find friendship, love, whatever it may be. But it kind of boils down to peace. Finding your own peace, being happy, being sad, feeling your emotions, knowing what to do, knowing what not to do, uh, being giving back to community, giving good, as I like to say. But peace. Just I want you to think about peace and how it is in your life, I guess. You know, do you have peace right now? Are you in a stressful situation? You know, if you are, then, you know, how can you get into a peaceful situation, right? You know, obviously, if you're going through drama right now, I feel for you. But there will be peace, you know. After you graduate high school, I know it's gonna feel weird not having the drama, right? You're gonna realize that, oh wow, I have to find my own thing, right? I have to do this or that. Um, but you're gonna end up realizing that you just want to find your own peace. Now, some of my friends want to be millionaires, right? Now, here's what I realize is when you get enough money like Elon or Trump or, you know, billions and billions, either A, you have a passion that you're really passionate about, like for Trump is business and they're making more money, for Elon is creating stuff. But most of these billionaires and millionaires, they've reached their goal, right, of being, you know, wealthy and stuff. And what do they want to do? They want to be private. They want to buy a private beach, private island, go there, you know, do stuff, chill, be away from society. Well, that's them finding peace in a sense, right? They want to find peace from other humans, I guess. And for some it works, for some it doesn't, you know. Um, but it's crazy how when you get money, and money is has such a big social impact, right? That it it affects how you want to get peace and what type of peace you want, like do you want peace of where you live near your family, everything's good, you can hang out with your friends, or do you want to have the type of peace that um you live alone, you know, you live with your wife, your kids, and live on an island somewhere or live somewhere private and just live your life, right? Um, I don't know. It's whatever you choose, right? That's kind of the fun part of life right there. Another thing is peace and I guess being in the wilderness. I think that's where people find peace. If you're not a big wilderness person, you can still find peace, maybe in a different way, but I feel like for me personally, going into the wilderness, the trees, and just staring at them, I think you can learn a lot by that, right? By that peace, being with your own thoughts, right? I think that's the biggest thing someone should do in their life is be with your own thoughts, find your own peace, right? That's what I did before this. I was in the shower, I was thinking, crazy, right? I was thinking with my own head, and I came up with a topic of finding peace in our lifetime, right? Alright, well, that's my little talk about peace in our lifetime. As Tony Stark would say, I hope, well, he wants peace in our time, but I hope you can find your own peace. Alright, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, y'all.